Welcome back to the show. It's time for us to look at what's trending on the news. And of course, we have Ezigu Chukudi wearing my favorite color, looking like a star boy in the words of Leila. Hello, Chukudi.
Hello, ladies.
Hey,
Happy Thursday.
I can't wait for tomorrow for you to say happy
Friday.
weekend.
Oh yeah, it's weekend.
No, Friday is weekend.
It's always good to greet everything together. Happy weekend. So we know you are in for a very long holiday.
Abio.
Good to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
So one of the most scary things I saw on the internet yesterday on the news is the fact that the Ebola virus disease is back. Now, I remember when we had the Ebola virus scare. On a day like this, we'd always remember the efforts of Dr. Ada Devo and how she sacrificed her life to ensure that the Ebola virus does not spread. Now, the truth is, at the time, we had campaigns of everybody use your hand sanitizer, wash your hands. The campaigns were really everywhere, such that even in churches, when people stopped offering each other a sign of peace. In the Catholic Church, in the mosque, in the religious houses, we could see that people were prepared. But now, this news hasn't really gone far. It doesn't seem like people are still ready for it. And with all that is going on, Chukudi, we cannot afford another attack. We can't afford a health disaster.
I think this situation is an indication, or it is indicative of the fact that as Nigerians, we live in a particular incident. And once we feel that we are done, we just move on to the next one. I recall the whole incident, that resulted in the diplomat, Patrick Sawyer, coming into Nigeria and bringing the Ebola virus into the country. Rest in peace, Stella Ameyo Adedevo. The sacrifice she made, insisting that he was not going to leave the hospital, was what prevented a calamitous disaster in the entire of Lagos.
Absolutely.
Now, it's important that we point out that when we look at issues and we rush and try as much as we can to say, oh, let's do what we can do to resolve these issues, and we settle them, we are quick to move on to the next one. I still go to public buildings and see, empty cans of hand sanitizers. At some point, everybody took it, like you mentioned. The Catholic Church sent out a circular, I know of the Archdiocese of Lagos, encouraging people to skip the Peace of the Lord ritual that we always observe in the Catholic Church during the Holy Mass, like peace of the Lord be with you. Even in congregations, people were encouraged to try as much as they can to be very, very careful. Now, what we must do is always remember that we need to be conscious of our environment. We need to be conscious of the fact that only, through a concerted effort can we preserve our environment and protect our lives. It's really very, very important. Now, the order from the federal government, the Federal Ministry of Health is doing a lot to see that they put the word out there, get the various state commissioners to begin to act appropriately. And now the federal government has ordered that we man our borders. But the truth is, for example, in parts of the North Central, armed bandits come into the country, perpetrate whatever evil and leave, or move from one state to the other. We have not been able to control these people. Is this somebody that is wearing suit, looking very, very fine, coming from maybe the DRC, God forbid? There's no God forbid in this particular one. If you're not prepared for it, it's a very, very serious situation. Now, what is even more scary? In the case of Patrick Sawyer, he came into the country by air. And ideally, of all our borders, the place we put a lot of emphasis is when we check through people coming in through the air, through our air borders, and we try to man them. And we have over 1,000 unmanned borders where people can just cross in from Niger Republic, from Cameroon into Nigeria. What we must begin to do is have a long-term solution to these issues. Have a national policy on security. That's something I've learned. You cannot use fire brigade approach to deal with a problem, because the next day you would still need that fire brigade approach.
Sure.
Let us have a national policy on health, security, education, whatsoever as relating to human capital development. Only then we will begin to see progress. And talking about giving orders, the president gave an order to the Inspector General of Police, told him to relocate to Benue and contain the situation. He went to Benue, didn't spend up to 24 hours, went to Nasarawa and returned to Abuja. That was the order handed by a president, or the president to the Inspector General of Police. Now we are now talking of an order in Nigeria. I will give another definition for the term order.
Someone's yesterday.
I defined someone. Today I'm going to define order. You see, order is order in the English dictionary or in the English language. That is to do something, is a verb, an action word. Let's look at the Nigeria definition. In Nigeria, an order is just an order. When the order becomes effective is if there's commensurate action to the order that has been handed down. Now, the president has said, please try as much as you can to ensure that we secure our borders, or the federal government secure our borders. If we do not secure these borders, then the order is, with all due respect, a useless order. Simple.
Wow.
Wow.
So an order becomes an order only when the order has taken effect and someone has done something about the order.
Very true.
I think on days like this as well, because we're speaking about Ebola virus, we need to ensure that people understand that as individuals, we need to protect ourselves. You need to wash your hands as much as possible. Do not come in contact with someone if it's not necessary. Understand that you need to protect your eyes and your mouth, and those are we have your mucous glands, and when you put your hands there, then you stand at a risk. So wash your hands often with soap and with water, and not just with water. We need to still keep pushing this message out there.
Very much so. Now let's move on to another story, because a lot of Nigerians are not too happy at the moment. The federal government is currently considering an extra year of education for people in university. Now this was announced at a 2-day retreat by Anthony Anwuka, the Minister of State for Education, stating that a lot of students who study law then go to law school before NYSC and have an extra year. Students who study medicine also get an extra year. And now they want to implement that because they believe that Nigerian students are going to university and they are not coming out employable. Now, Chukwudi, first of all, whatever happened to quality over quantity?
It's still talking about a national policy on education. You see, the Honorable Minister for State for Education, Mr. Anthony, I saw a photo during the photo slide. I saw a photo of him wearing a 3-piece suit. I'm thinking that maybe the tie, he knotted the tie very tightly. If we are even going to, this is the picture. If we are even going to have extra year, then this man should be the class captain of those that will spend an extra year. We are discussing problems in education.
And pay for an extra year as well.
And someone is saying this is the solution to the problem.
Besides, people already spend extra year. First of all, when ASU goes on strike, I remember in my time, I stayed 7 months at home, in school. If one was pregnant in that period, you will have had a baby. Even if the baby is premature baby survive. So 7 months is a lot of time. Some people stay 1 year at home. So we want to add 1 more year to that.
Olive, what was I even telling you this morning? I was saying to Olive that I have friends who started at the University of Ibadan before I went to university in the UK, and I came back and I finished, and they are still there in UI today.
The problem is a national policy on education. The truth is, a lot of students in Nigeria who go into our tertiary institutions resort to self-help. Everything we learn, virtually everything we learn or try to learn in order to help ourselves and better our lives is as a result of students who struggle. This is the only country where we have night class. You went to Abraka, you know what night class is. The day I mentioned it to Leila, she was surprised. But night class is if you are a Nigerian student and you don't go for night class, maybe private universities, and this is no disrespect, perhaps, maybe private universities because you have the time, maybe the luxury of trying to rest and all. But if you go to a federal institution or a state institution in a public university or higher institution, you must have gone through night class if you want to make a 2-2. I'm telling you of 2-2, if you must have gone to night class.
For a 2-2, you have to go to night class.
It is that is the true definition of burning the midnight candle.
So it's called Awoko or TDB. You have to read all night because you want to actually.
Do you know, it's actually so tragic. Like, we can actually make it funny and we can laugh about it because often at times if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. But it is tragic. If you cannot learn enough to become employable in 4 years, what exactly is an extra year going to do?
National policy on education. We have created a mindset. Get into a higher institution. That's why people tell you, I don't want to go polytechnic, I won't go university. Because the person just feels that the weight of the certificate that you brandish at the end. And we have always said it here that education is not just Western education.
Yes.
A is for apple, 1 times 1, or this times this. Education is basically empowerment, knowledge that you acquire so that you can contribute your quota to nation building and national development. Whether we like it or not, some people cannot just, if you tell them A here, it will come out as B here. And it is no fault of theirs. And it is not that they cannot contribute to nation building and national development. It is exactly what we do to make life easy for them.
I mean, this is what
about people like Richard Branson, even our very own Ike Osakodua, this popular Albert Einstein. These were people who teach them from now till tomorrow. And they say it.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean the person is not intelligent. It doesn't mean the person cannot be relevant and very, very integral when we talk about developing society.
Oh, yes.
So what
So
we
I don't
must
know
do
if you
is
saw
look at
the
our
Twitter
education.
thread of a lecturer and the students. The students could not remember everything the lecturer taught her. And the lecturer saw her notes and saw that she was making efforts. But the thing is, she had undergone a surgery that had affected her brain, the part of her brain that is responsible for retention of memory. So what did the man do? He started teaching her in pictures. He said, okay, when you think of this, what do you think of? All right. He started teaching her in pictures.
Is that is
No,
a
of course
Nigerian
it's not a
story?
Nigerian story.
I wanted to be sure because
No, of course it's not.
this kind of story is a story that has happy ending. You know, Nigerian
Lights
stories.
at the end of the
Nigerian
tunnel.
stories has there's a difference between a story that has and happy ending. It can never be Nigeria.
And these are the
Don't
things-
blame our lecturers. It's not their fault.
Yes, but they also have a role to play. But we will continue to push the word out there. We'll continue to talk about better structures, better education. We need to see more being done in our budget, a budget that has not been passed, of course. We need to see more being allocated to education. We need to take it seriously because the uneducated people are really a foundation of our problem. When we're talking of
Honestly.
education, we're not talking of the four walls of university. Education is education in all ramifications.
And
You
it's
can
the
cite-
bedrock of any society.
Exactly.
And
at
quickly
the
talking
end of
about
the
the
day.
budget, let me just throw in a new date. May 16th.
All right, that's how many days from today now? Today is about
Today's
May
10th.
10th.
The
6 more
countdown
days.
begins.
All right, so we count down, we start the countdown again, and hopefully this will be the last countdown we'll have on Hello Nigeria with regards to the budget. So let's
That time
move away
will be.
from the budget and to part of the people that are the problems of the budget, the Senate. Now, yesterday, the Senate had, in a closed-door meeting, had said that, you know, they had declared the IG of police a national enemy of democracy. We'll look at the details of this story because we're connecting with our studios in Abuja to talk about this. And of course, Ezugu Chukwudi will be here to discuss that with us. So we'll go on a very quick break. When we'll come back, we'll be connecting with Skype to Abuja, and then Chukwudi will be here to discuss this with us. Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. It's time for us to connect with our Abuja studios via Skype. Let's speak with Somi to find out the update on the story. Hello, Somi. Good afternoon.
Hello, Olive. Good afternoon.
All right, so we have reports that yesterday, after a closed-door meeting, General of Police unfit, a public enemy and unfit to hold public office in Nigeria and abroad. Can you fill us in with the details on this story?
Yes, this resolution was reached, like you said, after the closed-door meeting where the Senate President came out and then announced that this was the decision they had taken on the IGP of police. And this was because for the third consecutive time, he had refused to appear before the Senate. Now, of course, the IGP has come out very, very quickly and to say that this particular resolution reached against him, declaring him incompetent and unfit to hold public office, was outright blackmail because according to a statement which he issued, he wrote a letter stating why he would not be able to appear before the Senate on the 9th of May. Now, note, the 9th of May was the third consecutive time they had asked him to appear. This was after one summon in April, I think 25th, another one on the 2nd of May, and then this third time. Now, the concern there is that the excuse, or rather the reason he gave for not being able to go before the Senate on the 9th of May, on the third summon, had to do with some issue of the fact that there was a pending court case against him raised by Senator Dino Melaye. But when you consider the fact that that was not, or that hasn't been the only reason why they have been requesting that he appear before the Senate, but also to explain the issues of proliferation of arms at some point, and even the killings, the just, you know, relentless killings of Nigerian citizens all over the place, then you would find fault, I think, with the reason that he stated for not being able to appear. There have been some insinuations that it is now a case of the IGP trying to prove that he's beyond and above the authority of the Senate, and they have said this is a threat not just against constitutional authority, but also to democracy.
Okay, Somi, thank you so much for this update. Now, is there any other updates as well regarding Senator Dino Melaye?
On Senator Dino Melaye, no. What we have here, there's a hearing on the 11th of May. That one having to do with the suit raised against the IGP of police, of course. But again, the issue raised was the fact that he had something to do with arms dealing, or the proliferation of arms in Kogi State. But, you know, as it stands, it's in court. The matter is pending, and there's a hearing on the 11th of May. But, you know, just again, like I said, the fact that this is the reason why the IGP has not appeared before the Senate, as he says, is a bit iffy, if you ask me.
Well, Somi, thank you so much for this update. We do hope that the next time we do speak to you, we get some more positive news. But it's good to see that action is being taken with regards to accountability and responsibility. After all, it's crucial for national development. Thank you.
You're welcome. But when you say action, if I just put that in there, all the Senate has done has come and made a declaration. There are arguments as to whether this declaration would actually stop the IGP from going about his regular duties. There have also been arguments that despite the fact that they have come out and declared him unfit for public office, they do not have constitutional authority to actually take action against him to stop him from going about his duties. So people have said, or analysts have come out and said that if this is really the way they feel about the fact that his refusal to appear before them is a threat for democracy, and some have said works against public interest, then there should be some sort of action that they can take in line with the law and to calling him to order. As a matter of fact, at a point before the last meeting, the Senate President and the head of the House of Representatives did go before the President, who the IGP answers directly to. Senate can be disrespected in this regard.
Okay. Somi, thank you so much for this update. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Wow, that's a very interesting one there, Chukwudi. What are your projections for how this will turn out? Because now Somi has mentioned that all they did was make a declaration. Of course, they can't stop him because there are arguments as to the constitutionality of them being able to stop him. So what are the projections for how this will play out?
Well, there's also talk that, the Senate would, the Senate is sitting on the 2018 budget because the power of appropriation as enshrined in the Constitution gives them the right to look at the budget and say, this is how we are going to spend the money since we represent the people or the interests of the people who elected us to sit in the House of Senate or in the National Assembly. Now, the question is, they will try as much as they can, or certain insinuations, they will try as much as they can to make life difficult for the IGP by maybe blacklisting the Nigerian police force. But the truth is, it's important that we detach our emotions when we look at these arguments. Certain people look at the Senate and say, the 8th Senate has not lived up to expectations. And the way, the Senate as an institution made up of members have constituted themselves, it has brought some sort of disrespect to the Senate. But the truth is, the Inspector General of Police, when they say, come and brief us on Dino Melaye, as it was said in the beginning, but now they are saying people are dying in Nigeria every day. Maybe the case of Dino Melaye will be part of what we would ask you. But we would like to also brief us on the security challenges in the country. I think that the Inspector General of Police should honor the invitation. Now, if you asked about Dino Melaye, you can say, there's an existing suit that has been filed in court. And if you talk about it, it's sub judice. You don't want to say anything about it. There's nothing they can do because they understand that a case that is before the courts, you cannot discuss the matter. And you can give answers as regards the fact that a lot of Nigerians are losing their lives, properties are getting destroyed because of the fact that it would appear like we have noticed laxity in our security situation.
At the same time, on the contrary, yesterday speaking to Captain Umar Aliyu, what he was saying is that it's one thing to summon someone. How many times have the Senate said summon, 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 right? And what he said was, respect is not given, respect is earned. If you want people to respect you, then show that you are a respectable 8th Senate. And he was like, that Senate has not shown that. So why do they expect people to step forward? Can we actually see it from that viewpoint and say, okay, that is understandable? Or can we still say that constitutionally, because you have to actually appear before the Senate, if you were called before the Senate, this is not allowed in any way whatsoever?
Well, the truth is, the Senate is not just about the 109 members. The Senate is an institution in itself. It's the apex legislative arm of government. So if you disrespect the institution in itself, you're setting a bad precedent. It's not about Dino Melaye or Dr. Bukola Saraki or Ike Ekweremadu. It's about the Senate as an institution. And we must accord respect. But that is not also saying that, people who are members of this institution should carry themselves in a manner that is not respectable or that will not earn respect. So it's really very, very important that public office holders should do all that they can to see that in advancing our democracy, they lead by example.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Chukwudi.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.